God, why?
Hey now, it's not gonna be that bad. Collabs are fun.
Collabs are fun, but lore-driven collabs though? Oh, God.
Well, you really should have thought of that before you got involved in destroying my theater multiple times and making me flush my toilet on live streams for views. And don't get me started on Phyllis.
That was friendly banter, man. I've never tried to establish lore on your channel before.
Butthole raccoons, Phyllis, my computer being a potato? Do you know what therapy for a computer runs these days? Okay, look. We're less than 15 hours away from you being murdered horribly anyway. That's pretty quick, isn't it?
Not quick enough. Oh, God, we've got to stop this thing before we get even more bedded in. What next? Unexpected cameos from fellow YouTubers? I'm not as popular as you might think.
I mean, you're more enjoyable than Phyllis.
Look, just get it over with.
In due time. Our next stop on this terror trip is a true torture device of the modern age. Unless you like shirtless, hunky guys, that is. I suppose it's a pain for you. But it's a definite pleasure for me.
2014's Bigfoot vs. DB Cooper is, it's a thing. It exists. It exists and defies genre definition. It is anti-cinema. It has some very light horror elements, but isn't really a horror film. It predominantly features shirtless men stripping down to their boxers for candid shots, but it isn't strictly porn. It has DB Cooper and narration describing his infamous plane heist, but it isn't a drama. I'd say I'd struggle to tell you what did happen in this movie, but even that would be a fib because I can tell you exactly what happened in this thing, and the answer is not a fat lot. This film is the brainchild of one David Dakota, the man who brought us Chick Boxer and Final Scream, and here we're looking at one of his latter-day works, and arguably one of his more sadistic offerings. I'd be being kind here in saying that this isn't one of his best. In fact, when Red Letter Media covered it on their show Best of the Worst, they declared this film to be the worst movie that they had ever covered in the history of the show. And now, having sat through all 76 minutes of it, I'd be pressed to disagree. What I'm going to do here is tell you exactly what happens in this film from start to finish, spoilers and all. Not because I'm being mean and want you to find out how the film ends, but because if I don't mention the ending, there will be no talk about the plot, because frankly, there is practically nothing here. So, the film opens in 1971 and takes place in Ariel, Washington in some woodlands. We're introduced to Bernie, our sort of main character in this, but not really because he doesn't really do much, whose future incarnation is also our narrator for this film, recounting the events of one fateful day when he was hiking out in the woods. What follows is 11 minutes of Bernie walking through the woods while a guy in a frankly awful Bigfoot costume skulks around, it's implied it's watching Bernie, intercut with random location footage, and in between the lakes and hiking is 11 minutes of interspersed title cards. After this, we then get introduced to DB Cooper, basically setting up who he is and what he did. DB, known as Dan, was a mysterious man who in 1971 caught a flight and while in the air revealed to an air hostess that he'd brought a bomb onto the plane and that his demands were for a parachute, a gun and a large sum of money. He then grounded the plane, evacuated the flight of everyone barring the pilots, took off again, and while being tailed by 2 fighter pilots, he jumped from the plane with his parachute, the gun and the money and disappeared, never to be seen again. We only spend a very brief time with DB in the opening, basically picking up with him as he's preparing to board the plane, mainly made up of stock footage of airports. At this point we cut back to Bernie, who, it's revealed, actually wasn't just hiking randomly in the woods. He was actually heading to a house just on the outskirts of the forest that he thought would be a good place to get away to for a few days and unwind. However, when he arrives, he's greeted at the door by a shirtless guy who tells him that him and a load of other shirtless guys have all come up to the house to celebrate one of their crew's upcoming weddings. With Thanksgiving also coming up, they've decided that not only will this be some sort of bachelor party, but that they're also going to hunt some turkeys. Bernie still seems a bit confused, but the guys basically offer to take him on board as part of the hunting bachelor party experience, and after offering him a beer, well, Bernie accepts. We also see Bigfoot skulk about a bit more, and then we cut back to DB, who's now on the flight and threatens the stewardess with the bomb, giving her his demands on a napkin. What then follows is an extended sequence of two guys from the house jogging. They stop to get changed, but that's it. Back at the house, the guys discuss exactly how the turkey shoot is going to go down, and they agree to split into 2 teams of 3 and to make it a bit of a competition. But one of the guys isn't up for killing animals, so they decide to be a team of 2 and a team of 3 instead. The 2 guys who went out jogging get back and everyone confirms the plan. What happens next is insane. You see, we then as the audience are effectively held captive when not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times we are forced to watch 4 of the actors in this movie do exactly the same thing, one after another for 5 to 10 minute stretches. They wander around the house aimlessly, walk into the bathroom, strip down to their underwear, pillock about for a bit, and then put their pants back on. 4 times! And the only reason I say it's 4 times is because really, it's 5 times. But the 5th time it happens is slightly different. Because after the 4th time, all the guys apart from the Bachelor decide to finally get the hunt underway. So they head out of the house, leaving the Bachelor guy by himself. The same shenanigans happen again, but this time he calls his wife briefly, goes to get a shower, fake jerks it in the shower, and then Bigfoot, who's been on and off stalking the house for the last 45 minutes or so, breaks into the house and kills the Bachelor in the shower. But there's no blood, no visible sign he's even been hit, and Bigfoot isn't even in the same room. They just filmed an action shot on a black backdrop and called it a day. 45 minutes in, the film once again remembers that DB Cooper is supposed to be in this movie, albeit briefly, as he hops out of the plane to collect his demands and then evacuates the plane and takes off again, although the stock footage still shows the plane as full despite what the narration says. And what follows is basically the guys all titting about in the woods and talking absolute bollocks that has no impact on the story, but slowly, one by one, the guys decide to go back to the house for one reason or another, be it bathroom breaks or just not being asked about hunting anymore, and one by one, as they get back to the house, the same thing happens over and over again. They wander around the house for a bit and either find Bigfoot who kills them, or they wander around the house for a bit, find one of their friends dead but seemingly untouched, and when they try to flee the house, which takes ages, they find Bigfoot who kills them. All in the same way, all in the same style. After a while, the only 2 people left are one of the Bachelor bros and Bernie, who tells the bro that there's myths about these forests involving killer creatures. The bro laughs at him for believing a load of folk tales, and when he isn't paying attention, Bernie whacks him with the butt of his gun, knocking him unconscious. And if you can believe it, well over an hour and 5 minutes into this thing, we're going to get a bit of actual plot beyond the dross we've encountered so far. So, after having knocked the bro out, Bernie heads to a specific spot in the woods, and it's revealed that Bernie and DB Cooper are partners in crime, and that Bernie served under DB in Vietnam. Oh, and the knocked out bro wakes up and almost immediately gets killed by Bigfoot, so yeah, he's gone. Anyway, DB and Bernie reconnect, and shortly thereafter the pair hear the bro being killed and rush over to see what the matter is, where they encounter Bigfoot. And there's no other way to say it really, DB and Bigfoot have a very brief fight. Mano a Bigfoot-o. And DB seemingly wins, killing Bigfoot in cold blood. But there's a plot twist, as Bigfoot scratches DB pretty badly, and while Bernie thinks it's a healable wound, DB tells Bernie to run. When Bernie tries to help, DB roars at him, and it's revealed that, like werewolves, if someone gets scratched by a Bigfoot and lives, they themselves become a Bigfoot. Bernie flees and the film ends saying that somewhere out there right now is DB Bigfoot. Cut to black, end credits, fin. What the fuck? And the thing is, I don't really know what to do with this. thing because it almost feels unfair to hold this thing up to the usual standards I cover for these movies. It's just people jogging, walking, or stripping down to their undies, all shirtless, for about an hour and 5 minutes out of an hour and 16-minute runtime. So the debate I'm having is, do I judge this film by what it is, or do I judge this film by what it should be? Because if I'm judging it by what it should be, it's arguably one of the worst films I've ever seen. If I'm judging it by what it's trying to do, then it's not great, but it's not bad. I'm fairly convinced that there was no script for this, not in the conventional sense. There may have been a running order of events, something approaching a story outline, but given how little dialogue there is in this film, and given that what dialogue there is seems to be badly improvised in terms of quality, I don't honestly believe that there's a page-by-page breakdown of what happens in this film available. If there is, it's painfully thin and largely filled with action instructions. What is presented here is essentially a 10 to 15 minute movie with an hour's padding stapled to it. And really poor padding at that. I can handle some padding, hell, if the padding's well written, even if it's not linked directly to the main story, if it's handled well, it can end up being funnier or more interesting than the main film itself. That's not the case here. It's just inane. Inane to the point that I don't really know who the TA for this honestly is. People coming to see ripped guys get naked won't sit through the weird Bigfoot DB Cooper subplot, the jogging, and the random wandering around the house when Pornhub exists. Horror fans sure as shit won't sit through this thing for what horror's on display. Even some of the more hardcore David Dakota fans I know have neither the patience or inclination to sit through this thing because so little actually happens in it. The pacing is like drowning in glue. The padding drowns what little plot there is to the point that it makes the whole thing an absolute test in patience. So much so that by the time the fight between Bigfoot and DB finally happens, which is actually quite entertaining and dumb in equal measures, I didn't care about it because I'd lost interest about 25 minutes in and was literally just watching at this point to get to the end of it. It's just not worth it. It's not worth an hour and 10 minutes of meandering for collectively about 5 minutes of not even interesting, moderately dumb goofing about. There's no real act structuring, there's no linchpin moments. The film just sort of vomits out this fluff, occasionally remembering that if it doesn't put a few plot points in here and there, then it literally would just be a documentation of people wandering around the woods in 2014, rather than an actual film that people have to pay to see. I can't even really talk about the dialogue because A, there's not really a lot of it, and B, what dialogue there is dreadful, aimless, stilted, and really properly feels like Dakota just told them to talk bollocks and walk for a couple of minutes until they got the take. This thing makes Chickboxer look like War and Peace. It makes Things look like Avengers Infinity Wars. It's that slow and pointless. The film was co-written and directed by David Dakota, who we've covered the filmography of a few times in the past. But here's a fun piece of trivia about this movie. David Dakota marketed the film as starring Linnea Quigley, who even appears on the DVD commentary track for this movie. She's not in this film. She has one line of dialogue that's been dubbed in. She has top billing on this film. Holy shit. The film was also co-written, used the loosest way possible, by Harvey Shaiman. I can assure you I pissed myself out of rage and laughter when I found out that this movie, of all things, had 2 writers. Stunned. I'm honestly stunned. Harvey has 3 writing credits, and this was his last and probably best known work. On the subject of direction, I'm again posed with the question, do I judge this by film standards or by what's being presented? Because if I lower my standards so far as to judge the film on what's here, the direction's pretty passable. You have an hour of people walking around and getting changed. David's managed to effectively capture that, and while it's maybe a little bit lacking in terms of creativity, I personally feel the sequences could have done with just a few more cutaways, honestly. For what this is, it doesn't look awful. Judging this on basic standards of cinematic integrity, however, this film's dead behind the eyes from a directing standpoint. It's flat, lifeless, and because of the script it's working with, it's horrifically restrictive on what it can really do. Honestly, the script should never have left Dakota's computer, let alone got to the point where it was directed and shot. It's a painfully by-the-numbers production that's trapped by its own total lack of interesting or unique happenings. I'd rather go for a walk for an hour and 16 minutes myself than sit through this. And I am not a walker by trade. Direction of the cast is poor, but then again, when the script is basically just Bernie walks for 11 minutes and doesn't say anything, how do you work with that? Seriously, how do you direct a cast member on that other than telling them to walk from point A to point B? Nothing happens while they're walking, jogging, or exploring. The closest to cast direction we get in this film are scenes where the guys strip to their undies, but that could best be described as David off camera shouting, "Caress your abs more." And the final fight between DB and Bigfoot, which, again, is less a creative, choreographed fight to the death and more a sighing, well, people have made it this far, might as well actually make Bigfoot fight DB Cooper, is deathly dull. It just has a total lack of creativity behind it. The Cine is much the same story as the direction. If I'm judging it from a bar on the floor, this is the script perspective, they don't do too badly. Composition is reasonable, they sometimes do some interesting shots, there's a sense of variety, though I feel it could have really done with a bit more to make those sequences really sing. Even if it was just the occasional additional shot or the odd close-up, the occasional cut back from a close-up to a mid, it's those kind of bridging shots that are really missing from this thing. But out of what's presented, if you put shit in, you're going to get shit out. And this is probably the best outcome for the sheer bollocks that's been put in. Judging it with standards, however, it's barely a movie. There's an over-reliance on stock footage and B-roll, and not even particularly attractive stock or B-roll. They're just the most uninteresting, bland shots compositionally that I've seen. Like, all this footage could just as easily be available on a stock site for free and no one would bat an eye. It would have been nice to maybe have some Dutch angles, some close-up B-roll, to have actually shot Bigfoot in the woods and the house for the kill shots rather than shooting him on a black backdrop and inserting him as a pickup shot whenever they forgot or couldn't be arsed to get the shot. It's terrifically slapdash in terms of its assembly, with the only positive thing I can say about it being that at least they didn't grade it to be washed out and drab like most horror dramas of this ilk did and continue to do. And at least they managed to shoot indoor and location footage. Some films only do one or the other, but at least this film has the woods and the house to deal with. I know that sounds ridiculous, but trust me, when you've seen some of the shite I've seen, having two locations is a small mercy. Not that they do a tremendous amount with it. There are no good performances in this film. It's just hunkerdunk guys being hunkerdunks for 76 minutes, barely saying anything and barely doing anything but strolling around, sometimes with guns, and even their death scenes when Bigfoot gets them could not be delivered more half-heartedly if they tried. In fact, I don't even think most of them are actors. From what I can see on IMDb, most of them only have credits in David Dakota movies, making me think they're actually models that David's enlisted to be in his happenings. Eric Roberts appears in voiceover form here, playing the older version of Bernie in a performance I can largely describe as yawning. Seriously, for all the enthusiasm he puts in, he might as well be delivering the lines in between recording cameo videos. The only performer in this who gets anything resembling what an actor should get in a film is Terence J. Rotolo as DB Cooper. And even he isn't amazing. He shines purely for the total lack of stars in this galaxy of shite. Seriously, this thing is such a waste of hard drive space, I cannot stress that enough. And finally, the soundtrack. It's stock music, or at least it sounds like stock music. Stock music that's been badly mixed against the on-set audio. It's heavy-ish, rocky-sounding music that drowns out all dialogue whenever it's blaring. It has no connection to the time or place that this is supposed to be happening in, and genuinely could not feel more slapped on at the last minute and kicked out the door than it is. The on-site audio's botched too. Everything sounds super airy. There's very little, if any, ADR or Foley work. It's a sparse show that really does reveal how little effort was put into this production and just how much contempt the filmmakers had for the audience. Bigfoot vs. DB Cooper was released on DVD in 2014 by Dakota's own distribution label Rapid Hearts Production. And it made me laugh because on the spine of this film it's defined as a sexy horror. It's neither of those things. Extras are fairly sparse. We have a commentary track with David Dakota and Linnea Quigley in which they basically just openly describe what's happening on screen. It may as well be an audio description track for all the info you'll get out of it, and other than that and a trailer reel for other Dakota movies, that's it. There's nothing else here. Copies of this are allegedly Region 1 locked, but I had no trouble playing it on my Region 2 player, so It exists. Bigfoot vs. D.B. Cooper is a slug of a production, a film that would test the patience of even the most reasonable film critic. I honestly don't know who this feature is for. I don't know who in their right mind would choose to watch this. It's anti-cinema, and the only thing that stops me from full-on raging at it is the fact that because I knew going in that they had put nothing into this, I can at least partially accept that I shouldn't have expected anything good to come out of it. Had they set unrealistic expectations, I'd have torn this thing anew and no mistake. But because I know this is one of the flavours of cinema that Dakota works in, I kinda can't muster the venom to attack it too hard. This film truly belongs in the water is wet and the stove is hot category of filmmaking. If you know what you're getting into going into this, then it won't surprise you to learn that the film's mostly bullshit. But I weep for anyone who finds this thing with no idea what they're letting themselves in for, and I can only begin to imagine the pain they'll find themselves in. With a non-existent script, dead behind the eyes Cinean direction, non-existent performances, and a stocky and poorly mastered score with terrible on-set audio, there's so little to analyse honestly that I struggled to even categorise what I just experienced. It's just a terrible picture all round in my opinion, and not one that I wish to return to, nor would I wish on anyone else. No matter how much I disliked them, Triv.
Had enough, you not as muscular as those guys in the movie normal looking guy? Or do you want some more?
I just don't understand how this could have happened. Hitting 1K must have sent me mad with power. We were having such a nice time. Such a nice time.
Oh! God damn it. Right, I've had enough of this crap.
Maybe if I act more professional, I can make it go away. If I stop inviting people on the channel. That was a slippery slope move, Dan, but you were told it'd help you get views. It helped.
Shit. Who's this?
Oh God, don't answer that.
Hello?
Hey, Triv! I hear you're doing a Channel Awesome style lore-driven collab over on Dan's channel. Am I too late to join in? Oh, and by the way, Dan told me to tell you that you can detonate the bomb now if you want because he doesn't want to live anymore.
Oh God, there it is. There's the special guest cameo. I'm ruined. Ruined!
For fuck's sake. Look, man, can I call you back?
Sure, anytime. And to anyone at home, make sure you visit my YouTube channel at www.youtube.
Look, guys, Dad's having a bit of a moment at the minute. We'll see you next week. Shut up! Don't judge me. Bye.